Vampires have existed in mythology across every culture. Grotesque monsters who feed on the blood of humans. But today, they're seductive, charming, powerful, and even desirable. So what changed? Why are we so fascinated by creatures who are supposed to terrify us? In this video, we're going to explore the psychology of vampires and why we are drawn to the dark. Vampires are creatures of the night. They belong to the moon and the stars, the realm where desire rises to the surface, thoughts begin to wander, and instincts are no longer restrained by the distractions of the day. Psychologically, the sun can be seen as the conscious mind, the ego, the part of us that runs errands, that takes care of school, goes to class. It's our extroverted selves that interact with the distractions of the day. The moon, on the other hand, is the complete opposite. It can be seen as the unconscious mind, the parts of ourselves that carry hidden beliefs, forgotten memories, subconscious patterns that shape our everyday behavior, even when we're not completely aware of it. The vampire emerges from the unconscious realm, carrying the things that we have rejected about ourselves, the unseen things. In many ways, the vampire can be seen as the shadow, what Carl Jung described as the parts of ourselves that we deny, reject, or hide from the world. And perhaps that is why we are so fascinated with vampires. They're not just monsters lurking in the darkness. They are the reflections of ourselves that we keep buried. They're reflections of the darkness within us. But what exactly is a shadow? Well, to understand that, we first need to understand a concept called archetypes. In psychology, an archetype is an inborn model of human behavior, a universal pattern that exists within all of us. According to Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung, these patterns arise from the psyche of the collective unconscious. This shared unconscious helps to explain why people from all over the world and different cultures have some of the same stories, beliefs, and systems. Jung described four main structures of the human psyche: the shadow, which represents the hidden, rejected, or repressed parts of our personality. Then there's the self, the persona, and the anima and animus. For the sake of this video, we will be strictly talking about the shadow, the aspects of ourselves that we bury because we are concerned about how people see us and how the world perceives us. Many of our most popular and iconic vampires, like Lestat and Celine and Alucard, have something in common. They're more than just monsters. They've confronted parts of themselves that most people try to hide or that conflict with themselves every day. In Jungian psychology, this process is called individualization. It is the process of integrating the unconscious parts of our psyche into conscious awareness. Today, many people would call this shadow work. See the connection there? The vampires we admire aren't compelling because they're simply powerful. They're compelling because they embody qualities and traits that most people repress. They possess an unusual amount of self-awareness, intelligence, charisma, and confidence because they've embraced the parts of themselves that most people avoid. Symbolically, vampires have made peace with their darkness. Now, although some of them have not done it morally correct, a lot of them do carry this essence of embracing their shadow. They also don't apologize for their desires. They don't ask for permission to take up space. They pursue what they want with an unnerving amount of confidence and conviction. Perhaps this is why we find them so compelling. They embody the freedom and the self-expression that we have been taught by society to compress. Now, I would like to talk about a few things that the vampires represent. One of them is they represent a symbol of civilization, versus instinct. Humans spend most of their lives telling others and teaching society not to be too much, not to be too emotional, don't be selfish, to avoid this, avoid that. But then we turn around and recreate fictional characters who do just that. Not because we secretly want to be monsters, but because we want to feel whole again. The vampire becomes the embodiment of instincts that we have buried beneath the surface, beneath social conditioning, rules, and expectations. A good example of this civilization versus instinct would be Lestat himself, the shadow made visible. Lestat refuses to apologize for who he is. He doesn't ask for permission to take up space, to exist, or to desire anything. He embraces his confidence, his charisma, his ambition, and even his darker impulses. While many characters are driven by shame, Lestat confronts these impulses head on and embraces them, instead of pretending that they don't exist. And that is one of the reasons why audiences, even decades later, have remained fascinated with him. He's intelligent, rebellious, emotionally intense, and unapologetically authentic. Even when he makes terrible decisions, he rarely hides behind a mask of perfection. Psychologically, Lestat represents someone who has made peace with their shadow and who has developed a relationship with it. He doesn't repress his instincts. He embraces them, understands them, and chooses to live with the consequences of them. Again, this does not make him morally perfect, but it does psychologically make him whole and complete. This is one of the defining traits of many popular vampires today. They aren't frightening simply because they drink blood. They're fascinating because they embody a psychological level of completeness that many people spend their entire lives searching for. Another fascinating quality embodied by the vampire is immortality. But immortality isn't simply about living forever. It's about escaping death. Human beings are unique in the way that we are aware of our own mortality. One day we will die, and that conscious awareness of that fact influences many of our decisions, whether we want to admit it or not. We strive to live a legacy, build a family, attain wealth, create art, all in an attempt to leave a legacy behind, a piece of ourselves that will be remembered in the world long after we're gone. The vampire offers a different fantasy. Instead of escaping death, they transcend it. They remain forever young, powerful, and attractive, untouched by time. Elegant and nearly indestructible, they become impossible to forget because they are symbols of permanence in a world where everything eventually fades. A perfect example of this is Alucard. As the son of Dracula, Alucard inherits a name of legend passed down from his father. Whether he embraces that legacy or not, he can never fully escape it. Like many vampires, he embodies sophistication, elegance, immense power, and a type of prestige that comes from having centuries of existence. But what makes Alucard especially fascinating is that he is an eternal observer. While generations of people die or born or change, he remains untouched. He watches civilizations change, build, reform, and he just charges forward unchanged. His immortality grants him extraordinary wisdom, but it comes with the price of loneliness, as many of his friends and loved ones who are human usually pass in the world and leave him behind. Psychologically, Alucard represents more than just being a vampire. He represents legacy. His name endures across many generations and across many different versions of mythology. His influence strives long after ordinary lives have faded from memory. He fulfills one of humanity's many deepest desires, which is to leave something behind, not to simply escape death, but to leave something behind that will be remembered for centuries to come. And maybe that is the fantasy of the vampire. Not eternal life, but eternal significance. Another powerful symbol of the vampire is blood. Blood isn't just food. Throughout history, blood has symbolized life itself. It represents vitality, ancestry, identity, and the one invisible thread that connects life across many generations. When a vampire drinks blood, they are doing more than just consuming blood. They are taking life itself. Across many cultures, blood has been seen as sacred because it represents life itself. It holds the very essence of life. The vampire's hunger isn't just physical, it's symbolic. They crave vitality, passion, youthfulness, fun, and the zest for life. More than anything, they possess an insatiable need for living. Another endearing symbol of the vampire is sexuality. But this isn't just about sex, it's about desire. Throughout history, sexuality has been one of the most repressed and misunderstood aspects of our human nature. Vampires embody the freedom to embrace that nature without apology or shame. The vampire's seduction isn't just physical, it's psychological as well. They invite us to confront our desires and the parts of ourselves we've been taught to hide. A powerful example of this is none other than the queen of vampires herself, Akasha. She doesn't apologize for her desires or diminishes herself to make others comfortable. She represents passion, temptation, confidence, and the magnetic pull of embracing one's instincts. Psychologically, she symbolizes what happens when desire is no longer confined by fear or social expectation. Sexuality at its core is a life force. It's in our drive to create, to pursue, to pleasure, to have fun, to fully express ourselves. Vampires eroticize that life force by embracing that sexual nature, which is why they're often portrayed as irresistible and seductive. Why are we drawn to vampires? And why are we drawn to the dark? It's not because we want to be vampires. It's because vampires embody and portray those parts of ourselves that we have been taught to suppress. They embrace instinct instead of suppressing it. They confront their shadow instead of hiding from it. They pursue desire and sexuality without feeling ashamed. They live as though life has no power over them, and they possess an insatiable hunger for life itself. And maybe that's why vampires are making such a strong comeback today. We live in a world where many people feel disconnected from themselves. We're constantly performing for social media, worrying about others' expectations, chasing productivity, and thinking about how others perceive us. In the process of doing this, many of us lose touch with ourselves. We numb our instinct, blot out our authenticity, and the parts of ourselves that make us feel most alive. The vampire represents the opposite of the social norm. They don't ask for permission to exist. They don't apologize for taking up space. They embrace their complexity, their desire, their ambition, and even their darkness. And that's why many modern audiences keep returning to vampires today. Vampires remind us that wholeness isn't achieved by hiding from our darkness. It's achieved by integrating it. In the end, the vampire isn't just a creature of the night. The vampire is our mirror. It reflects our fears, our desires, our longing for freedom, and our need to find meaning in our life. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that it gave you some clarity on why you are drawn to the dark. Stay tuned for more. Thanks for watching.